Welcome to Podtendo, a Nintendo podcast, where they analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games.
Use one of these. GoldenEye. Load a rumble pack and see how it feels when 007 meets N64.
Hey guys, welcome to the Podtendo podcast, a Nintendo podcast. Yeah, I said it right. Where we analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games. We contacted on Twitter, Podtendo Podcast. Email us at podtendo@gmail.com. We're on other socials, from Facebooks to Instagrams. I don't know if there's other new stuff, but we're probably not on TikTok. So there you go. So that's where we draw the line. We're that old. We're not TikTok old enough or young enough. We're a review, retrospective, let's play pop culture show. I'm your co-host Mick, and I'm joined ever by my lovely and talented co-host
Tyson. Well done with the getting your way through that. There's a lot of things to remember.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for like 6 years to the point where it's literally just muscle memory. Like, I couldn't tell you specifically anything I said. I just have it all memorized as one big block in my head that just gets regurgitated. So
nice little muscle memory.
Yeah, nice muscle memory. So if you're joining us, 2 weeks ago we were talking about the movie from 1995, GoldenEye. Today we're looking at the groundbreaking landmark achievement that is GoldenEye 007 for the N64, one of the biggest games. Last year, surprisingly actually, in January, I think it was January, we played 007 James Bond for the Game Boy, which was a surprise hit on our show. I think it was both of our favorite games that we actually had played this year. So why not start the year off James Bond, GoldenEye 007. That's old school. That's like old school TBS. We're going to have a James Bond marathon on New Year's Day. Sit, be hungover, and watch 007 movies. And that's what we do here on Podtendo in January, apparently, is we watch GoldenEye and talk James Bond.
Not a bad way to spend our time. I mean, good way to start the year. It's a nice little fresh slate. Pick a good James Bond and just grab some snacks. Walk your way through this one, and while you're watching the movie, you kind of ponder about how amazing the video game is. So then you end up busting it out and maybe finishing it. So
yeah, and these two they're very interesting parts of pop culture, right? Because they are this weird intersection of game and movie are so synonymous with a certain age range, right? Like I imagine guys or children, boys and girls in their mid to late 30s, somewhere into like their 20s, probably know this game, played it a lot. It's synonymous, and then the movie for some reason crept in there too, right? So holds this weird special place where no other James Bond has really infiltrated the pop culture as much as this game did.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like there has to be, like, it must have been played a lot on TV movies, so that might have drowned or built up a lot of interest, because TV ruled at this point, where everybody
or I wonder if it was one of those things where because of the popularity of the game, they then would see increased ratings. Like, so TBS being like, on Thursday night, watch GoldenEye, and they would have like higher ratings than just saying like, we're playing Time to Kill.
Yeah.
Right.
And man, so back to the game. This game, I think, like, as a first-person shooter, like, it's usually one of the leading franchises, and on the PC, we had stuff like Quake and Doom and all that. But on the console, it was always kind of like hit and miss. So this was really the game that just solidified, like, first-person multiplayer shooters on a console.
Well, this is, I was going to say maybe the first big one, right? Because up until this point, I don't know if you have anything on the consoles, right? Because unless there was something maybe that stands out like SOCOM or something like that, right? Or like an early Call of Duty, but Call of Duty probably didn't exist, but it was probably like one of those other like military franchises maybe on the PlayStation that came out before this. But this was one of the ones that defined the genre, right? So I mean, if you're I said landmark, watershed moment in kind of gaming for first-person shooters. So if you're the console gamers that like your Call of Duties every year, or you like those franchises in the past, you have a lot to owe, essentially, I think, to this game. It kind of brought into pop culture, into the mainstream, and made it one of the more dominating, right, for lack of better terms, video game franchises or genres.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of laid the groundwork of, yes, auto aim's not a thing anymore, but it's a lot of, like, the maps and stuff were very, not overly complex, but straightforward enough that you had to have decent spawn points, and there's a lot of problems that they need to solve when they made this game, so I think a lot of developers learned that they could just implement that and expand on it. So who knows, maybe without GoldenEye, Halo doesn't feel the same that it does. So, yeah, very cool. And I mean, the character selection in all this game, it's pretty neat. Like, this game has just tons and tons of entertainment, but it's interesting.
Right.
I would love to see this game redone.
I do. So there is actually a GoldenEye that was released on the Wii. I don't know if you've ever had the privilege of playing that game, but
No, I've heard mixed things about it, because
All right.
I think they also implemented, like, they took Daniel Craig and they mixed him into it somehow, or then there was another GoldenEye game where you played a rogue agent and James Bond dies in the first mission, and you're like a bad agent, but you have a golden eye, so that's why it's called GoldenEye. It's there's lots of video games, and I'm sure we'll play them as we kind of go, but it's gonna be a wild ride, everybody. So buckle up.
All right, so just for curiosity's sake and for the education of our listeners, Doom was released on the PlayStation in 1995. We have a game called Firestorm Thunderhawk 2. That was December of 95. We have
So 2 years before this game.
and I'm guessing that is probably DEFCON 5. That looks like it's some type of first-person shooter released in November 95. So about 2 years before this. That's kind of like jumping off as like first-person shootery, right? Like there's no other big
For
franchises.
the console, because I mean, there's Quake, but that was a PC thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Kind of like for the console market, right? I mean, if there's something along the lines, but I don't think anything as big, anything that kind of is grandiose as GoldenEye. So I just wanted to kind of confirm that. So it's not like Call of Duty 1 or something was released 6 months before this. And I was like, well, now I look like a liar. I don't want to be that. So there we go.
That's fair.
So that was a lot of rambling on topic specifically about this game, which is not something you get a lot on this podcast. So there you go. So this game, again, GoldenEye 007. It was developed by Rare. It sold 8 million copies. Release date was August 25th, 1997. How Long to Beat has this game at 9.5 hours. Price at release was $49.99. And if you factored in inflation, that'd be $79.65 today. On eBay, you can get a copy of this game for about $20 to $40 to $12,000 for a graded inbox copy. Don't buy it. eShop prices, about $50 for the online service right now if it gets released. Otherwise, essentially, it's nowhere. And where to play, you can play it on an original cart or an emulator.
Yeah. So because Microsoft owns Rare, there was rumblings that next year GoldenEye might get re-released on the Xbox. So probably the exact same game. Maybe they fixed the controls, but I bet you it still has auto aim and stuff. So it'll be interesting. But I think nothing's confirmed, and until it's confirmed, I won't get my hopes up.
Yeah, you don't want to hold your breath on those guys.
Oh, absolutely not.
So we'd already talked about kind of just the legacy that this game had. Well, not really. We just mentioned it did have a legacy. But let's take a trip back to 1997 specifically, just to get a feel for what the pop culture landscape looked like at this time. So we're going to jump into our patented Wayback Machine. Travel back to August 25th, 1997, and start out by asking Tyson, what is your favorite show? So I was tricky on this one. Again, because I think we had just done this episode, or the exact same time frame for Star Fox. So if you went back and listened, and because it was literally the last show we did, I was like, but I do something different. So instead of Simpsons, we're going to get South Park going up against something. So South Park, Season 1, Episode 1, Cartman gets an anal probe. So Cartman complains that he was abducted by aliens, which leads to Ike also being abducted by aliens, concluding that cows are the most intelligent creatures on Earth. All right. Or Freaky Stories, Season 1, Episode 1, The Big Queasies. We have 4 little episodes here. So we have The Break. So a hungry escaped prisoner fills up on items in a mysterious fridge. How about cat food? A cat eats some food before a party and dies. How about Weenie Wonderland? A daughter decides to become a vegetarian, which leaves a bad taste in her parents' mouth. And Mixed Nuts. A bag boy discovers that helping the elderly isn't all it's cut up to be. So of those 2 shows, Tyson, which would you rather watch?
Ooh, well, everybody knows I love me some South Park. And even the crudeness of the first episode is still enjoyable to me. However, Freaky Stories is a neat little show that we used to watch on YTV, I think, or whatever it was, after like Dragon Ball Z or something. And yeah, it's funny how all these 3 or these 4 stories in this episode, like I do remember them. The Mixed Nuts one is disgusting, and the food in the fridge is also very disgusting. And the cat one was heartbreaking, but also kind of just like cringy. And the Weenie Wonderland is a very telling sign of current things. It's just, I don't know, it's neat. It's a great little story or show. So I kind of have to go with Freaky Stories here.
Nice. I knew that. I manipulated you into believing that was the right answer. So good job, Freaky Stories. Apparently that's all we're getting because it paused. So, all right, cool.
Easy.
Yeah, easy peasy. There you go. Yeah, I might have actually, because there's nothing written about these on the internet, so I actually had to go and watch episode 1 and write down kind of all of them. So I actually did homework for this. Well, that's pretty impressive.
Hey, and you actually wrote out the summary without. So we got 4 patented, like terrible summaries, all in like one little quick go. Wow, well done.
Wow, amazing. How about other top TV shows? If those don't tickle your fancy, you could watch Seinfeld, ER, Veronica's Closet, Friends, and Touched by an Angel.
All right.
Top cartoons: 101 Dalmatians, Caillou, Extreme Ghostbusters, Extreme Dinosaurs, Johnny Bravo, Men in Black, Ned's Nude, Recess, South Park, and Spawn all started this year.
Excellent.
All right.
Anything with extreme in it, it's got to be good, right?
Oh, you can't go wrong by putting extreme in it. And it's actually spelt extreme and not just extreme, so you know it's cool. Top movies this week was Hoodlum and Excess Baggage. All right. Still in theaters, you could see G.I. Jane, Money Talks, Event Horizon, The Full Monty, and if you waited a week or 2, you could see The Game, L.A. Confidential, and The Edge.
Interesting selection of movies. Man, I kind of want to watch Event Horizon. I've heard good things about LA Confidential. I just can't bring myself to watch it because it's old film noir movies about old Hollywood. Kind of I'm good.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna watch Event Horizon.
All right, okay. And then top video games released this month, so August of 1997, was Imperialism, Tetrasphere, and Mega Man X4.
Ooh, another Mega Man X game. I've never heard of the other 2.
All right. And then top music of the year is number 3 was Mo Money, Mo Problems by Notorious B.I.G. All right.
Nice.
And this is right after that weird, Puff Daddy
wrote a memorial song about him,
and then his song was popular, and then Hanson, and then it was another. So again, I should really look into some point. Like I should maybe watch a movie or read a book about his life, because I think the time frame would be interesting. Number 2 song, however, was "How Do I Live" by LeAnn Rimes, which means that Plane in Prison movie. What's that called? Is definitely popular this summer.
What? About what in prison?
Nicolas Cage, Con Air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Plane in Prison movie. How could you not get Con Air out of that?
Oh, I didn't hear that. I heard prison. I didn't hear the first part.
Oh, okay. All right. So
if I heard a plane, I would have known for sure.
All right. Plane in Prison. And, of course, the LeAnn Rimes ballad, How Do I Live? Leanne.
Aerosmith rip this song off for, like, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing?
Because that was I mean, it's a love ballad. You know, like, Love is Good. There's lots of Love is Good songs, right? So
True. But I'm just saying.
Right. Like, if you wanted to stick
around
around...
on you, Aerosmith.
All right. And the number one song is To Become One by the Spice Girls. Kind of a filthy song.
Yeah. You know, I would watch a movie with them running around in it.
I mean, they like, you want to talk about lack of talent and just marketing and like pushing someone? Spice Girls, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wow, no doubt. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
Holy moly, that was not a great song.
No.
But it was number one. For what reason? I don't know. Everybody liked the Spice Girls because
Mediocre talent. They wrote some songs. They ran around. They were cute. Sure, why not? How about the developments? Now we know what the pop culture landscape looked like in that time. We're ready to go. Now you can know how this game was developed. So, a couple weeks ago, we know the movie came, and now for some reason they're making this video game. Wonder why it took such a long time to develop. So, GoldenEye 007 was developed by British studios Rare and directed by Martin Hollis, who has worked as a second programmer on the coin-op version of Killer Instinct. Due to the success of 1994's Donkey Kong Country, the game was originally envisioned as a 2D platformer. However, Hollis pushed to create a 3D shooter for the N64. He created a document with design ideas, including gadgets, weapons, character story, digressions from the film, and AI. So essentially, he created AI. So that's pretty exciting. Sega's 1994 Virtua Cop, Doom, and Mario 64, so the multiple objections within each stage, provided influence on the design of this game. They originally wanted the game to reload, or the players to reload their guns by ejecting and replacing the rumble pack. That idea fell through. The team visited...
Could you imagine? Wow. That would have been...
That wrecks this game, right?
That would have ruined controllers so fast.
Yeah, like, because you're, like, in and out in the grab, like, you're shoving it back in, and you're definitely breaking your rumble pack, and you're like, well, there's $60 I guess I don't have anymore.
And potentially a controller.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was... Holy, that's funny.
Like, that's as bad as
I'm glad that quickly fell through.
That's almost as bad as, like, the spinning games and, like, Mario Party and how it, like, wore holes in people's hands. And Nintendo is like, here's a glove.
Yeah. Sorry about ruining your palms.
Yeah,
but...
like, this is like, we're like, oh no, we have this feature to reload our game, we break controllers, so like...
Yeah, and it's a really expensive attachment.
Yeah, so I'm glad
we expect children who have great hand-eye coordination to pull this feat off very rapidly in a first-person shooter, because you don't reload constantly.
B works really well, too, so...
God, could you imagine?
All right, so the team visited the studios of GoldenEye film several times to collect photographs and blueprints of the sets. The team was not afraid to extend or modify the material to help them design the game. The team considered implementing both on-rails and free-roaming modes because they did not know how the N64 controller would work. A modified Sega Saturn controller was used for some early playtesting. An SGI Sonix graphics supercomputer was used during the first stages of development since the N64 development kit was not readily available to the Rare team. After the first year of development, Rare added more staff to the project. Steve Ellies was hired 6 months later, and he is credited with the cheat mode and was mostly responsible for the game's multiplayer. The team assumed that they could use anything in the James Bond universe. This led to a lot of content being cut. Notably, Sean Connery's James Bond was once a playable character in multiplayer. Due to the limitations, a lot of the game was originally rendered in black and white, and to save space, they colored it later. Nintendo was originally concerned about the amount of violence and gunplay. As a result, the team toned down the killing and added an end credits sequence that introduced all non-playable characters. That'll show that they're real people dying instead of just computers.
That way you're emotionally attached when they get shot.
Or like, it's like, see, this just make-believe, because they're fine at the end. Okay, sure.
Oh, yeah. It was like a little play that they were putting on.
Oh, okay. The actual development of GoldenEye 007 took more than 2.5 years to complete, and a total of $2 million US was spent on the project.
Diggity dang. It's very neat, and I mean, I guess apt that a GoldenEye or James Bond game was made by a British studio.
Mm-hmm.
So no wonder there was a lot of love and care dumped into this game, because who would have figured that people who are passionate about the source material do a good job?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, just think of the hurdles they had, right? Like, they didn't know how the controller would work. They didn't have a design kit, right? They had to use like a modified supercomputer to create this game. So I mean, the fact that we got a game.
Oh, and even at that point, like, there's not like game engines. They're not like, hey, let's use what Unreal Engine or they're like, no, we need to literally program line by line, like how these things and the physics is going to work. Like, essentially, like creating an entire genre, like first person shooter, and like adding multiplayer all in one go. Then even to a point where like you make so much content and that things have to be cut just for like censorship and like rights. It's like, wow, this game was literally truly a passion project, and that's why this game just stands out so much.
Yeah, no, 100%. So let's move on to, now that we kind of know what the pop culture landscape or the development of this game kind of looked like, let's look at the controls. And you do wonder if the fact that they had to build the game from kind of ground up gives it a unique feel, whereas you don't get that with a lot of games, because they do use kind of physics engines that are already existing, right? So the fact they had to kind of do everything themselves.
Oh yeah, like, and I mean, even just like, it's a first-person shooter, so there's lots of like projectiles and bullets and physics that like when you shoot somebody in like the face or the foot or whatever, they make different animations. Like, there's lots of like details that went into this game.
Yeah,
and it's crazy to think about how much like effort that they like. It makes sense that they need to hire more staff, and we're like, now we're going to ramp this game up and do it right. So
anyway, so that was a random thought I had, and it kind of concluded. And it sounded like we had a conversation instead of just reading notes. See?
Yeah,
look at that. On to the controls, though. So the joystick moves around the x-axis. Holding R lets you aim, and the joystick moves around the y-axis. Okay. Z shoots your gun. A allows you to scroll through your weapons. B reloads. You can use your menu to select kind of what mission you're on, see your objectives, and select one specific gun and or gadget. Gadgets usually need to be selected and then used like with Z. So if it's some type of control stick or you have to input something into the computer, you have to kind of select it, press Z. You can play through missions, selecting various difficulties, which will increase the difficulty of the amount of things you need to be completed, the amount of ammo you get, the amount of damage you take, the amount of damage the villains take. And then multiplayer, which allows you to select a level. You can choose different characters, which rules, whether they're stocks, teams, capture the flag, or timed. All those good things.
Yeah, pretty cool. I think that this game, one of its weakest points is its controls, because now that we have two joysticks, it's just much more intuitive. Mm-hmm. But with the N64 having just a single joystick right in the middle, and I don't know, if you haven't seen an N64 joystick, I'm surprised that you're listening to an N64 podcast. But it's not the most intuitive.
I'll pull a picture up for everybody. N64 controller.
Yeah. And it's so goofy.
If you look at my screen right now, that'll be the controller you can see right there.
Okay. I'm very helpful for an audio podcast.
Oh, shoot. I forgot.
Oh, dang.
All right. That was my funny joke. So, anyways, right. I'm sorry I wrecked it. Well, you had a good point.
No, well, it's the controls are kind of the weak spot, but they had smart workarounds. Like, the gadgets are kind of clunky, but it works.
Oh, and it just adds a little more interactive. So you're not just on a free roaming on the rail shooter, right? Like, you can actually interact with the environments, which is kind of neat, and different objectives kind of taken from that Mario 64, right? Do add a lot to this game, right? And there's some levels you go to play and you're like, this is tough. Like, I actually don't know what to do. So,
well, also, I guess like this game's so kind of timeless that even Samsung made a digital face for their like smartwatches that looks like the GoldenEye face. Oh, cool. So when you like look at it, like pulls up the gold, because everybody wanted that watch when they were a kid. It was the coolest thing in the world.
Nice. Okay, so let's move on to first memories of this game. So I know we got this game on a trip to Calgary, and it was a super hot game at the time. It might have been the fall of 97. I think it was warm out, so maybe like 98. Depends when we got our N64. So it might have been 98.
Okay.
That's how I'm like skimming through it. It was definitely early. Like we maybe had like 4 or 5 games. This was one of them. Our uncle, who didn't really like video games at the time, was really interested in playing through the story mode. He liked kind of like shooting people. I definitely played this at a friend's house, and while he was playing it, he made me play multiplayer. And I didn't know how to look down, and he was odd job, and he just crouched and went around me and slapped me to death. It was humiliating. We spent countless hours playing multiplayer, and like if they actually calculated those things, it's probably absolutely disgusting, right? Like kids nowadays, you can like, I played Fortnite for this long, or like I play World of Warcraft for this long, and it keeps track, and you can look at those things. We don't have those statistics about our lives, but like the amount of time we spent playing multiplayer with friends is probably absurd, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, geez, this was one of those games where like you would just play game after game after game, and you'd come up with different, like, oh, this time it's only proximity mines, this time it's only remote mines, this time it's only rocket launchers and slaps and like license to kill, so any shot insta kills, and like there's so many different combinations. But as a kid, we were just like, we couldn't get enough of them. We never really did make odd job illegal. It was just like whoever picked odd job won, and then everybody else was kind of like, well, I'm gonna maybe take the helicopter pilot and go from there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I went with the helicopter pilot or the Siberian Special Forces because he had kind of the cool mask.
Yep,
right,
makes sense.
But it was just I don't think odd job was ever like illegal, because I mean, so like being short. I don't know.
I've heard people like do that when they were like, oh yeah, when we were kids, we did not allow odd job at all. It's like, really? No one had any fun with odd job running around wrecking people's days. Like,
I feel like our skill level, I don't know, maybe it was just different, but it did seem like it was one of those things where we were, I don't know, like,
it wasn't that much of an advantage.
No, I don't think so, right? Like, yeah, typically it'd be like live and let die or whatever, like the one hit kill slapper mode. Well, odd job is just, I mean, it's a little bit shorter, but you just like aim down, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. And you have to always aim up if your odd job hit headshots, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's honestly just like timing, right? It's like whoever times it right and strafes correctly wins.
Yeah.
It's not about like headshots.
Who you are, right? Character abilities or something, right? So, and I know at one point this was busted out at university, and it was this one like Saturday morning, and these like random guys came over to this like house where I'd always hang out and drink, and I like told everybody. It was like, at one point I think it was actually it was either 3-on-1 or it was like a 4-way stock lives, and I think I got 27 of the kills. Like it was like I'd grab a weapon, go shoot the guy, go grab the next one, and I knew exactly like the level design of the stacks or something so well that I was able to eliminate everyone else. I was king. That was one of those times in my life where I was like, I am king today. So
that's fair. It's a good level. It's a good level.
Nice. Any other first memories for yourself?
No, I just remember playing tons and tons of this game. And
what was that one level called? Maybe we should play multi.
Reading the walkthrough, I guess.
We did have the walkthrough. Yeah, we bought that at some point. We got that at like a Toys R Us. And I recall, what's that one level that's like very metallic and steel looking, and they've got like the weird hidden walls, like, and you can play capture the flag and just like hide there, and people wouldn't be able to find you ever.
Yeah. I forget what it's called, but yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
That's a good multiplayer level. I don't know what that one's called either, but that's the one I like. So. Yeah,
and I think they even brought that little back in Perfect Dark or something like that, because I seem to have a vivid memory, or like a hazy memory. I shouldn't say vivid, a hazy memory of like playing that with like seeking rocket launchers.
Oh, that's fun. Interesting.
So yeah,
cool. All right. Yeah. So obviously grew up with this game, played it a lot. There you go. So, and 64 kids. That's what we are. Yay. On to the story. Let's look at this game proper. So now that we've kind of talked about our experience, how this game came to be, the time it came out on, let's look at this game proper, shall we? So the story. So in 1986, MI16 uncovers a secret weapons facility at the Belomir Dam. James Bond and 006 are sent in to investigate and explode the plant and plant explosive charges. All right, so level notes. Mission 1, Arkansklegs, 1986. 1-1, The Dam. I kind of wrote out a quick synopsis, so maybe I'll read that, and then we can talk about our best moments, favorite moments, like frustrating moments, as they were, something kind of a standout. I say we run through all these, and then we give our top 5 levels, so mission levels at the end.
Okay, sounds good.
I think I have mine off the top of my head, and because I've been thinking about it, but we'll let Tyson maybe keep track, make notes. So, the dam. So you have to fight across, or fight through guard towers, follow a truck, open some doors, and stop the alarms before jumping off the dam. So, Tyson, what is their most notable, best moment of this level?
When you first come out into that dam, it's pretty awesome. Like, it feels like you're about to jump off this dam, and like you feel like you're right in the movie, and you're running up just like he does. It's so cool.
Yeah, I love my my Janko jeans as they're like flipping around as I'm running, and I'm like, these are the best pants to run in. Funny you mentioned that area. So yeah, as you kind of get through the end, there's this big dam, and you get a sniper rifle early on in this level. Well, if you use it, you can look across and you can see this little tiny weird island out in the middle of nowhere. And the speculation that it created. So there was tons of forums and early playground speculation that somehow you could get to it, right? And it wasn't until we got the Game Shark and you could like clip through areas that you actually could go explore it. I mean, it's nothing spectacular. It's just some leftover, design. They were going to make a speedboat and you had to go explore this island. They scrapped it and they just kind of left the asset sitting there. But it was really cool. And the fact that there was this weird like fan speculation around that. I do love those kind of moments in games when we all kind of have to get together. And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. It's like the 3. There's lots of great examples.
Oh,
I think it's Mario Galaxy with the 3 things standing on the cliff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like the Legend of Zelda is full of that, right? And like L is Real 426 or whatever in Mario 64. And I just love those little like, you get them this like gaming magazine and all of a sudden you flip and like, did you know that there's a secret island in 007? You're like, what the fuck?
I'm going to go back and replay this.
Man, I'm sitting at the grocery store, I'm reading Games Radar magazine, and now I got to go home and play GoldenEye? Let's get out of here.
Yeah, it's like, let's get out of this grocery store, Mom. I gotta go home. Got things to do.
Fire pineapples, go home.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so.
And then she's got to spend 6 hours looking at winemaking kits.
1-2 is the facility. You drop down into the bathroom from a vent. You open a door to the lab. You meet a scientist. You fight through some more labs before meeting up with 006, planting some bombs, and escaping. All right. What's your best favorite moment of facility?
I think you got it in your notes, so I don't want to steal it because this is the coolest thing. Like this is the best part.
Oh, it's learning to sneak back into the vents in multiplayer, or just the scope of this level. So I think that there's so I have kind of 2 parts, right? So there's this part where you can you drop down into this vent and then essentially you're stuck. But if you look down and strafe and spin, sometimes your character will like clip into the wall and like go back up into the vents. So you can be playing multiplayer and you can have like a fully loaded assault rifle and you can hide up in the vents and no one can get you. And you can just like sit there and like snipe down at your friends below you. So
yep, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And honestly, like it just feels so cool that you're like sneaking through these vents and you have to drop down into the toilet. Like it feels like you're a real spy. Like that, just so cool that I don't know many games that really even incorporate crouching and sneaking and just in that way. It's so quick and so easy, but it's just like...
Well, they make it feel fluid, right? So you can crouch and sneak versus like you can do that in Metal Gear, but you have to like crawl on the ground and all of a sudden you're like vulnerable to attacks, whereas you always feel powerful in this game, right? So, and then just, the other part is just how the scope of this level, right? So you come out into this hallway and there's like back hallways and extra stairwells and these little rooms with scientists in them. And then there's all these extra labs, right? At some point you have to find this Dr. Doke guy on some of the harder difficulties, and he can be in one of 5 locations. So just like you can play this game 5 different times and have a new experience, and that's really cool, right? So like the first time you play it, you're like, you go and he's like, where is he? And you have to keep exploring around, and he's like, oh, now you're here. And I think that's really neat, especially for like an early first-person shooter to have that kind of creativity. So
yeah, and it's neat that they even put the effort of randomizing it because they could always just kept him in the same spot. So
yeah, nice. All right, so 1-3 is the runway. So you have to attack some guy in a shack, get a key, destroy some guns, and escape in a plane. What's the best moment of the runway?
I think it's hopping in the tank.
Yeah, it is. That is the best part. So you can run around, run over guys, shoot guys with your missiles, blow up big guns. It's got everything.
Oh, it's makes you wish you had a tank in every mission.
But now we escape. Unfortunately, 007 or 006 is dead. A couple years later, so what is that, 5 years later? Mission 2, Sebenaya, 1991. I had no idea about this like weird timeline, so I was fascinated to write down those dates. So 2-1 is the surface. You have to explore a snowy landscape, turn off a satellite, and discover the back way into the bunker. What's the best moment of this area?
I just like the atmosphere. Like it's snowy and like that makes the draw distance on the N64 is not that powerful, so like it kind of makes you feel like you're in this like snowy environment and you can't really see very far. So it's a very well designed kind of, like, I shouldn't say well designed level because it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel like you're running around out in a, like, Arctic base.
Yeah, no, that is an amazing moment. The draw distance sucks, but it works for snow. So good job. So the enemies in this area, actually, and you know what, it worked well with Shadows of the Empire too, right? Like when you're in Hoth, everything's kind of snowy and there's just that little bit of fog, and it does work really well with those nice bright white levels. And they then make the mistake of turning the lights off lots of the time, which sucks. But I like the enemies, the Siberian Special Forces, one of my go-to multiplayer characters, right? They're these cool guys in like a mask, and like taking the time to be like, okay, something to do with Siberia, and clicking every single character every time through and being like, till you found it, and you're like, oh, cool. So level 2-2, so we're still in 7i in 1991. You're in the bunker. You have to sneak through an uncompleted area, take out some security cameras, make a copy of the GoldenEye key, and escape. So what's your best moment?
I think it's just the goal. I don't know. It's hard to say. Come up with something specific, but I don't know. The GoldenEye key kind of is cool once you figure it out. I remember getting frustrated as a kid. So that kind of like maybe not be my favorite, but replaying it this time, it was fun. So
yes, stood up. Yeah, for myself, I like getting caught and fighting the special forces, because then you get one of their guns and they're like the D5Ks or whatever. That's just my favorite gun in the game. So like the fact you get to like play around with that is kind of neat. I mean, the fact they recreated the film set, like you walk into that first area and you're like, holy smokes, this is literally from the game where the computer programmers hang out, right? Like that's pretty neat.
Oh, it's awesome. I can't believe the amount of detail that they just kind of expanded on it is very cool. So
all right. Now, for no reason, we're back in 1993. So, Mission 3, Kyrgyzstan, 1993. 3-1, Silo. You have to battle through several tight corridors, take some pictures, confront the general before running to the end. What's your favorite moment of this game? Or this level?
I kind of hate this level.
Yep.
Yep.
So, definitely one of the worst levels in the game. It's very difficult. Yep. Holding up scientists to get random security cards sucks.
And super confined. Like, I mean, it's not like it's just a long hallway with sometimes a branch to maybe another room.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's literally just like, run forward.
Well, and one of the frustrating parts of this game, too, especially here, is enemies act as bullet sponges even after they die. So they die and their bodies, like, slowly fall down. You can continue to shoot them. So what the AI does is they stack each other, like 5 or 6 guys in a hallway, and you shoot and you shoot and you shoot and you shoot, and you just kill the front guy. So until his body is out of the way, the second guy won't receive damage. So it makes it super tedious to take down these little tiny tight corridors of all these enemies, right? So very frustrating.
Yeah. And then the higher difficulties, it's timed, so that doesn't add unnecessary stresses.
No, not at all. So we'll just move away. Let's jump into, I guess, the present timeline. I don't think we ever jump away from a 1995. So now we're in the prime timeline, so that's exciting. So technically the game is just starting. Mission 4 is Monte Carlo, which apparently is in Monaco, which is his own country. Who knew? There you go. Learned something today. So we're on 4-1, Frigid. So you board a ship, track the helicopter, rescue some hostages before escaping back to your boat. What's the best moment of this one?
It's a confusing. It's kind of a neat like idea riff on like the scene of the helicopter being stolen. I think the only good part is getting it's the MP5 version in this game, the DK, what the heck it is. The DK5 or the heck it is. That just getting that gun. It's fun. That's the only good part. These are
probably the two worst levels back to back. I don't know. I don't want to rank the worst levels, but like Frigid, Silo, probably up there as the worst. that's fun. I like rescuing the hostages. It's kind of fun because there's a bit of a thrill. You come into a room and there's like a hostage being held by a gun, and if you don't shoot the guy with the gun quick enough, the hostage dies, and there's auto aim. Sometimes you shoot the hostage, and you're like, crap, but you can only afford a couple casualties. And there's lots of ones like don't kill scientists. Well, sometimes rooms are exploding, and there's all these explosions and stuff, and like scientists die, and you're like, I got to do the mission all over again. That's annoying. So, kind of neat-ish moment, but yeah, no, definitely memorable. We can move on to mission 5 though, Sevenaya. So we're back to surface. 5-1 surface. So back to the surface. It's now dark. You can get lost very easily. You have to find a key, open a cabin, and enter the bunker so you can get captured.
Yeah, too bad you ruined the back door entrance. So you went and tried to go in the front door, and it backfires.
Yeah, a little bit of a deviation from the movie plot here, but it's kind of fun. And I remember playing through this once and laying on the ground, and I have this big rear projection CRT TV, and it's actually almost like borderline impossible to see what the heck is going on in this game. So laying on the ground, you have to sit up in a chair. Definitely makes it a little bit easier, but it works really well in the first time. In the light time, not so much in the dark. So
yeah, it's a little unfortunate, but the darkness is a little too dark.
Nice. So. All right. Well, we're going to hear my dog's ball bouncing because he wants to play fetch, apparently. On to 5-2, the bunker. You free Natalia and yourself from a prison cell with a watch magnet, fight a ton of guards through a now completed bunker before escaping. What's the best part of this one?
It's an escort mission, so it's not a fun mission. But I mean, I love the idea that you just use the magnet to grab the key that's on the other side of the room to unlock your door and to get out. And you're like, you know what? I love the implementation of the gadgets. I always think that it's a little clunky, but it's unique.
Okay. So. Yeah, and I think it's just exploring the vast completed bunker is a lot of fun. There's lots of enemies. There's like trick little moments. There's, I think, one of the greatest enemy counts outside of the limited enemy areas is actually in this level. It's kind of fun, right? And it's one of those things where, like the beginning where you have to like use the watch magnet, get some throwing knives, take out the guard, and it's very like stealthy and sneaky. And then like you walk out of the hallway and it's just a gunfight for the rest of the level. So,
yep, right. Yep. It's well done. Yeah. It's kind of like, I like that this is a callback to a level sort of done right.
Yeah. Then we're on to mission 6, St. Petersburg. So apparently we leave Sevenaya, we head off to there. So we head to, but we don't have, interesting. So we're at 6-1, Statue Park. So you have to explore through the ruins of the old Soviet Union, meet with Valentine, rescue Yanis, rescue Natalia, and retrieve the black box before being captured. What is the best part of this one?
It's kind of clunky and not really well done, but I like that they try to include kind of cutscenes in the game. So characters will, like, you have to put away your gun at certain points for characters to show up, and if you just like walk away from characters that are talking to you, it'll just like, oh, they left. You failed that. You failed that thing. So it's like, it's interesting. I mean, for people that are trying to rush through it, it's a little pain in the butt. But I like the attempt.
Well, I agree 100%. It is kind of dark, confusing. But yeah, like those story elements, right? Like there's a helicopter that randomly shows up. The one part I was confused of when I was kind of talking about this is Natalia's with you. And I guess she gets captured, or maybe she like stays at the beginning and then is captured or something. I just know that like you have to like wake her up and stand beside her and run away from the helicopter for a second or something, right?
I think
something like that.
Trevelyan says something like, "We have Natalia."
Yeah, okay.
And yeah,
something like that. Okay, all right. But yeah, no, the cutscenes mid game are pretty cool. So on to number 6-2. So now at the end we're captured by, I think, the Russian governments. We're in the archives. You must escape capture, fight through the movie sets, rescue Natalia, meet up with the defense minister before escaping into the streets. So what's the best part of the archives?
I think it's just like a really cool little area to explore. It feels like you're right in the movie. Feels you're like there's like an attic and you have to actually shoot out the window to escape, just like he does in the movie. And you're like, you know what, this attention to detail is really well done. So I will give him that.
Oh, I agree on that one too. It's watching the movie again, and he comes out of the little interrogation room, and he's in the archives. right? Like, he's in the hallways, they're painted the same colors. He goes upstairs, the offices all look the same. He's in the little library area, it's exactly like the movie. And I'm like, absolutely amazing, just astounding, the excellent work that is done here, right? So credit that. So then we're into 6-2, the streets. So I guess Natalia for some reason is gone, and you have to chase her in a tank.
Yeah, somebody, Ormov has her. Orlomov.
But like, she's with you at the end of the last one, but then she gets captured.
Not very good with the escorting her.
No.
You seem to keep dropping the ball.
She
on
jumps
this.
around a lot. And actually, I'll be honest with you, as beautiful and great as Elizabetha Scorpicos or whatever her name was, her like character model like physically upsets me with just how ugly Natalia is in this game. So sometimes I'm excited.
Oh yeah, she's like some random like ginger lady.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is what's the in Star Trek Voyager? What's Captain Janeway? She's got like Captain Janeway hair going on. It's like, this is not Natalia.
Oh, it is like it does look like a Captain Janeway, and like this gross blouse that she wears with this skirt. Like, it's just really obnoxious.
And I always just picture like the DK mode version.
Oh,
of her.
DK mode is awful. She definitely should have been like my favorite character in multiplayer, just because like people have been like, oh, gross.
It's like, don't get this thing away from me.
All right.
They would have been too distracted.
As opposed to this like beautiful Russian model where I'm like, oh, I understand why like Russian women are like a fetish in themselves, because like there's absolutely gorgeous, and then you get this like disgusting gross model. Ew, sick. Streets. Completing all the missions here is actually kind of fun. You have to go into this like house, and there's a side street to collect everything. You get to be like in a tank. Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yep. And there's like, they laid like mines and stuff. It's well done.
It's not as much fun as Pierce Brosnan has in the movie, where he like runs through buildings and destroys a statue, because tanks are unstoppable. They can just destroy these big concrete blocks.
Yeah. Also, there's no button to fix your tie after you do a James Bond moment.
Yeah.
And that's missing.
All right. Like Russia, some of the architecture in like St. Petersburg looks absolutely beautiful, but all their concrete is filled with air, so like tanks can just run through these like big concrete bases. It's awful. They should have really.
Oh yeah,
fixed
it's
that.
almost like they've never used rebar in their entire life. Everything's just like
air.
Literally just and like maybe bricks.
Yeah. All right. And we don't get the fuck me eyes that Natalia gives Bond in the movies, so that's disappointing. 6-4 is the depot. So you fight Yanis's men through a train depot. I literally don't recall this level at all. So I guess peek behind the curtain, Tyson came down a couple months ago now, and we sat and played through this whole game knowing that we were going to do this kind of in the new year. And we thought, I had to play this game with Tyson. He loves James Bond. We played this a lot as a child. We had to play it together, right? So it was a good kind of weekend where we just essentially just had a time. I did have a little puppy that used to pee and poop all over the house, so there was a chance that maybe I was like cleaning up like dog pee or poop.
Potentially. It's a fairly forgettable level. There's like literally lots of different warehouses, and some of them have Yanis's men in them and stuff, and it's not that
all right, so
exciting.
That's Tyson has to do the legwork there, because I don't remember that at all. However, I played the next one, 6-5 train. Oh, so we switched on and off, so you can now, if you know Tyson played that, you could like alternate, like, oh, you played that level or you played that level. So I played the train. So you fight and kill soldiers along the length of the train. In the final car, you reunite with Natalia and use your laser watch to escape the booby-trapped car. So what is the best moment in the train?
I think that this is a very linear level done right. Like there's lots of variation. Like you gotta shoot the boxes. There's little power boxes. You gotta shoot all the men that are popping up. It's very interesting and like continually push your way forward, only to have to like do a timed maneuver of like aim your watch and melt all the stuff so you can get out of there. It's cool. I think it's well done.
I remember playing this as a kid, and I agree with everything Tyson just said. The laser watch is really neat, but I remember this being the very first like challenging mission. So everything else I was just kind of able to like brute force my way through, easiest difficulty, just shoot everything, run, play a bunch of times. But like the train seemed like the first one where I had to like take my time, and it would actually abuse you if you kind of ran through, and you had to like use your laser watch. Seemed like this like really high skill thing. And I remember a couple times I'd like actually run out of laser before I cut all the little straps off, and I was like, well, that's not very good, right? So yeah, definitely kind of neat there. On to mission 7 though. So now we get to leave Mother Russia, and we get to head to Cuba. So 7-1 is jungle. So you and Natalia are dropped into the jungle. You fight some soldiers and drone guns before facing off with one of the only bosses in the game, Xenia. Afterwards, you have to carefully navigate around some more drones with a combo of an RCP-90 and a grenade launcher. What is the best moment in this game, or in this level?
It's kind of, for me, it's a three-way like tie. Like fighting against Xenia's like legendary. She walks in, music changes, and it's very like intense, especially on the harder difficulties. Getting the RCP-90 and the grenade launcher combo is just like iconic. I remember just like burning through all the ammo as a kid. I didn't really like it too much playing it this time. It's kind of clunky, but I also like love running around with Natalia, who just has the Magnum and just one shots people. So whenever you hear like her massive gun go off, you're like, oh my goodness, who did she just shoot again?
Yeah.
So there's sometimes where she's just like a murder machine. She will kill people before you even like see it. You just hear her gun go off, and you're like, oh, somebody dropped.
Yeah, no, that is definitely fun. For myself, I think, yeah, it's like the combination of Xenia and the RCP-90 and grenade launcher combo is just like, yeah, epic as a kid, right? Like if you could get past that point, you're like, oh man. And like I kind of feel like the train jungle are definitely the, like, could you beat it as a kid, right? One of those moments, like, kind of where's your merit? How far are you on GoldenEye? And that was kind of like the levels. It gets not as hard from here, right? Depending on what difficulty you are, but those are definitely like the beasts. So on to 7-2 is the control. So you have to fight through some caverns, find some mines. Make sure you find those mines in those caves. Clear out the control room, plant some mines, protect Natalia from an onslaught of soldiers before escaping. So what is the best moment?
You did a lot of the legwork on this one. I thought that it looked kind of like fun, but then it was kind of a little confusing. So
yeah, best part is protecting Natalia in the control room. So you kind of clear everyone out, and then as soon as she starts typing, this infinite amount of guards start coming in. And I remember feeling it's the control room from the movie. You're like, holy smokes, they did it, right? Like, it's exceptional game design. It's a lot of fun. It's not too difficult, especially on the lower difficulties. Whatever we were playing on, it was like manageable. But at some point, you have to destroy these consoles with mines, and I couldn't find them. And they're like way back in the beginning, hidden in this like weird little area that I didn't go into. So that was the worst part. I was running around this area looking for mines, which was frustrating. But that protecting Natalia, having to escape to the elevator, chasing Trevelyan. Awesome. Absolutely. Just like the first couple times playing through it is one of those things. It's like, it's a visceral memory. Like I remember this as clear as day, as kind of difficult as that was. Thought that was really super neat. And I guess it is kind of tough. So the train, jungle, control all fit together as this nice little like difficulty in this like really fun game. So 7-3 is the cavern. So you pursue 007 through his facility. There are branching
006
facility. There are some branching paths, some computer rooms, and a final dash to an elevator.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty cool because it's got great like doors that you gotta wait for as they open up, and feels very like sci-fi. And yeah, I think it's a fairly like neat level. It's cool that it's walkways and you're in this cavern surrounded by water, and it feels that you're like taking this underground entrance, and it feels like you're infiltrating. So it's not too hard, but it's also I think that it's a very neat aesthetic that they went for.
Yeah, it's a little anticlimactic compared to the control room, right? Whereas I kind of feel like that's the resolution of the greater story, right? Like GoldenEye satellite is destroyed, great, awesome. Whereas this is a bit more 007 versus 006, right? So getting to chase him kind of fits that plot anyways, right? It's kind of neat, and it's that nice little breathing room between like the intensity of control is just kind of like a good beat 'em up shoot level, don't kill scientists, which is also awesome, before we get to the final stage of the game, which is 7-4 Cradle. So you have to battle 006 along the catways while destroying turrets and other soldiers, and once enough damage is done, he will retreat to the lower antenna, follow him, don't fall off, I've done that countless times, and finish him off. For England, James. No, for me. So what's the best part of the Cradle?
I think when you finally like are chasing Trevelyan and you're shooting him, and he's finally run into that like last spot, it really feels like the mad dasher. You're chasing him down and he's on his last gasp of things. So it's very cool. I think it's well done. It's not really a boss battle per se, but like they include him, and it's a much more iconic encounter.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's just very satisfying. He's a bullet sponge, and finally getting to like get to that, like, there's a change, there's a pitch change, right? Like, a replays, and he's like, something, I don't know what he says exactly, but all of a sudden he starts running towards the bottom, and you're like, it feels great. So that wraps up the main story. There are still 2 more levels. So do you want to do the 2 kind of bonus levels here, or give a top 5? Unless one of those
we'll run through the last 2,
okay.
But we'll do it quick.
Well, let's do the ending. So you have stopped Trevelyan and stopped the terrorist attack. You now get to make out with Natalia and watch the credits. But that's not all. There's 2 bonus missions. So mission 8 is Teotihuacan. It's an Aztec level, 8-1. So you have to collect some ammo, make your way down a catwalk, defeat Jaws, who's wielding 2 assault rifles, collect the Moonraker laser, give MI6 control of a spaceship, change the launch sequence, and launch a rocket ship. So what's the best part of the Aztec level?
I love how this feels like it's kind of like a side mission, like it's its own little mini quest that you got to go on. Like, it's quite long, and it feels a lot more, it feels like it's a really short mini game, but it's like its own mini campaign, but all wrapped in one level. It's just, I like it a lot. So.
Yeah, no, it's essentially it's a love letter for fans of the series, of the game. You have Moonraker, which, spaceships brought back in. There's Jaws, there's all sorts of things, right? Like, it's just this cute little thing. And I kind of love the extra difficulty that except I don't know if anyone would actually, like, it'd be really difficult to get to this. So after you beat Cradle, you unlock the Aztec I think you have to beat Aztec on 00 Agent, which is very difficult, right? Increased difficulty, more obstacles. Some of them are timed. Just tons of damage being dealt to you. You're not dealing as much damage outwards. And you have to beat this level on 007 before you get to Mission 9. So I don't think a lot of people legitimately ever saw Mission 9 as children.
No, I probably not. Not without cheats or whatever.
No. At one point we got a secondhand cart somewhere that, and I don't know if it was like Game Shark got us here, or we just found this random cart that had everything unlocked, but I think that's how we kind of like played through it. So mission 9-1 is the temple, so you have to complete a floor tile puzzle to get the golden gun. Without trial and error, I actually don't know how you do it. I don't know if I think you kind of have to like double or Indiana Jones walked in the right order. Then you get to fight Baron Samedi 3 times to complete this level. So he's this weird voodoo guy who laughs very menacing. What's the best part of the temple?
Getting the golden gun. I think it's just like the iconic gun that we all wanted as kids, and then there's like the silver gun. So there's a lot like more to this just through the cheats, but getting the actual golden gun was like, wow, you did it. Like, that's like the end game in this game is getting the golden gun legitly. So and what did I say? Short-lived, anticlimactic. Tying in like 4 to 5 Bond films at the end of the game is very neat. The golden gun lives in infamy because it's the one-hit kill gun, right? So there you go. Yep.
Nice. So that's it. Kind of tied in a little bit of the movie, tied in the game, but we're done. So we're at our current thoughts now that we're done. Tyson, what were your current thoughts on GoldenEye 007?
May not have aged super well just from graphics and controls and stuff, but I think it's still an interesting experience, and we have lots of nostalgia with it, so it's a fun visit, but it's not something that I would want to be like, oh, this is the best game of all time.
Yeah, and like,
because it's a flawed experience.
What a fast, like, obviously we're nostalgia blind. Like, we have to be, right? Because the same thing, like, this game is rough, right? It did not age well. It feels like an old first-person shooter. It just, like, it's out of date. But we said nothing but good things. Like, up until this point, you would have thought this was a great game. We had a fun experience. We loved it. We recommend everyone go play it. If you haven't played it for a while and you played it before, go play it. If you've never played it, maybe play it for a little bit just to experience the, like, where first-person shooters came from, to kind of build that into your repertoire. Like, lots of fun nostalgic memories for myself. But, like, be aware that you're going to be frustrated by this game. Like, even playing through it for this game, like, if we didn't have to, I don't know if I would have beat it, right? Like, the silo probably would have beat us. We'd have been like, we'll just move on, right? Not worth it. Yeah,
more or less. It's kind of we had to kind of push our way through it, but it was...
I think at one point actually, it's funny. I have our old strategy guide, so we had to bust it out and like look at it because there's a couple where you're like, wait, what am I doing here? What am I supposed to do? And we used it like on the control to find like where are the mines, right? We were flipping through trying to figure it out. So without a guide of some kind, it's a little bit unforgiving, right?
Oh yeah, and I think that it's a neat experience, and I mean, if you're a James Bond fan, obviously this is a must play. But I mean, as a strictly video game and first person shooter, it's kind of a flawed experience. Yeah. So it's a strange time. It's fun for us because we fit into that like little niche slot. But if you got our biases and sounds like you kind of have the same history as us, maybe repick it up and give it a try. Or I always thought like this would be a fun game because we were pretty good at this game after playing it and having that skills built up to kind of like play against somebody who's only played modern first person shooters and be like, see how you match up, see if they can adapt, or how badly do you just stomp them.
Oh, I imagine they'd have a zero skill set, right? Like we would be able to go in and just be able to mop the floor with them versus they'd be like, I don't know how to move. Moving is so difficult in this game, right? Because I just don't understand like what is being asked of me with this old controller, right? So it is fascinating. And again, up at this point, you would have thought we love this game. It was great. I maybe don't recommend it unless, of course, you have that very specific background. We were going to do kind of like a joke thing. Is it better than Star Fox, right? So we made that the joke. That's our favorite games for the next 100 shows. I think Star Fox 64 is a better game than GoldenEye.
See, I can't.
Oh, okay. Tyson,
good conscience.
So Tyson killed the gimmick on the second show of the next of 100 episodes. So good job.
Of 100 episodes.
Right.
Well, you know what? Maybe don't follow up that joke with GoldenEye.
All right.
But you know what? That being said, it would depends on how frustrated I get after replaying the silo, because that level might just make me want to be like, I'll play a little Star Fox.
So what would you change?
I would give this game like the modern 2 joystick controls for first person shooter and update the graphics. So not everybody like poor Natalia doesn't look like a orangutan.
Yeah, that's fair. And I said I haven't played the updated version on the Wii, but imagine someone who's played a current first-person shooter could go through and just update every single thing. You know, just like Tyson said, just new controls, fresh coat of paint. Great, awesome. Don't change a thing. But if they did change it, they would add like cutscenes and these other stuff. And I'm like, I don't want the other stuff. I don't want it to be a Final Fantasy VII remake. I just want goddamn updated graphics and better controls.
Yeah. It's like this is too much to ask.
Yeah. Again, it's just like, no, I'm not going to get into it. All right, so cool. So that kind of wraps that up. I have a fan theory, cultural significance, and then we are out of here. We have a dead gimmick. I thought we had this funny, is it better than Star Fox 64 gimmick? That's dead already. So are you buying it? The dam facility and airstrip doesn't make sense. So Bond jumps off a dam at the beginning of this game and movie, drops down 100 feet. He enters the facility and makes his way along a pretty linear area. Maybe you move up or down one level, but nothing really significant. You then go outside of the factory and there's an airstrip and you're shown flying away and you're on top of a mountain. There's no dam in sight. But how is the geography of this area? Like, how does it make sense?
Okay. So we are dealing with large mountain ranges.
Okay.
So imagine like everything's on the mountains, because everything's mountains. There's not like flat land or anything for people to like. So you got to drill roads and drive around mountains constantly. So plane travel makes sense. So they find a flat spot and make an airstrip. But I don't know. I'm grasping at straws because it's one of those things where like maybe the dam's on like near the top of this elevation.
So, but like you jump down hundreds of feet. So like the only way it makes sense is like there's a big dam and then you get through the little facility and then you jump out the side and there's like an airstrip. And if you somehow could look up to your left, there's this giant dam. But there is like in the movie anyways, there's a plane flying up over the dam.
Maybe the dam's on the other side of the mountain. And he's taken the facility like back way through the mountain.
But like to get back to the top of the mountain, like you don't go down far enough from the top of the dam. Like you don't climb up high enough to get to the top of the dam again. You know?
Yeah. No. I don't know. I could not tell.
All right. So there you go. So apparently this is not a logical thing. There. That wraps up this game. Yay! Fun.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We know we didn't do. I talked about it. We didn't. What are your top 5 levels?
Oh,
Want me to just read mine off, and then you can say if you agree or not.
Sure.
Right, so I think the facility, level 2, one of the best in the game. Level 5-2, so the second time you're in the bunker, I think is a absolutely great level.
Okay.
All right. Control. I love me some Control. I think kind of those unlimited fights, protecting Natalia is a lot of fun. Jungle is up there too, right? I think Jungle's a phenomenal level, one of the only boss fights in the game. And then finally, Cradle.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. I might switch the bunker for the archives or potentially the tank mission.
Okay. All right.
But other than that, yeah, I basically agree. I wanted to kind of put like the caverns on this one, but it's a little bit just not, doesn't stand out enough as anything special. And I mean, it's unfair to put the bonus levels on here because I think both bonus levels are like some of the best levels in the game because they're kind of like their own like mini missions. But
Aztec is awesome. Aztec is great. Temple is less good because really once you get the golden gun, it's just run around after Baron Sam.
Yeah, it's a boss. It's a boss fight. Yeah, it becomes like a.
So I don't know, a little bit less exciting, at least in my opinion, right? So okay, so a final cultural significance. Then we're out of here. That's it. Done. The first real show of the year, not like that fake movie review that we did. Cultural significance. So in this section, we look at game tropes, marketing tactics, interesting stories. We talk how this game relates, give other examples, and tie it all back together in the end. So the legacy of this game comes from its introduction of James Bond to a whole new generation. Our parents knew who James Bond was from the iconic movies from the 70s and 80s. However, the franchise did lose a little bit of steam in the 90s and was not really in our zeitgeist. Along came this gem of a game which caused every child aged 5 to 18, I don't really know the age, I just threw some ages out there, to run to the local retail store and rent out older James Bond films since they could not get enough of this trailblazing game. There was just not enough lore or content in the game. There was just enough, lore and content in the game to make you want to go back and like learn out who Oddjob was, or Jaws, right, or watch Moonraker. So there's all those neat little things. This franchise pretty much owns its popularity today to this game. Well, that's a bold statement. Let's look at some other franchises though that were reborn with video games. They're just all video games, so there's nothing special here. Ready? Also, do you agree with that statement?
Not the popularity of the franchise is owed to the game, but this game literally was a huge phenomenon. Like it was one of those like this was one of the games everybody was just playing for a while. Like it birthed first person shooters on console. So like, I mean, you think of the Call of Duty, like when at its peak, that was kind of the same feel. Like it was just everywhere. So there's a huge chunk of people that became James Bond fans probably just because of this, and definitely stayed. Like I know most modern people that didn't like love James Bond and go back and like look at this stuff, know of the franchise and kind of stay aware of the movies because they played James or GoldenEye. So who knows?
That is so GoldenEye, $350 million in the box office. Torn Never Dies only had 33. World Is Not Enough is 36. Die Another Day was over 400. So we saw a little bit of an increase. This game comes out in 97, 98. You would think that if my statement was true, that we would see like a big jump, like a $100 million increase in The World Is Not Enough, right?
Potentially. But I mean, I feel that there's lots of different factors, like what else kind of came around without that. But I mean, who knows? Maybe just the people that this was popular with weren't big movie goers.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Anyways, well, there's my bold statements. They're all lies. Let's look at the top 10 video games-ish. Top 10-ish that brought games back from dead franchises. All right. So we got number 10, 2011's Mortal Kombat. Sure.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. How about number 9, Crash/Spyro remakes? Because we've seen so many Crash Bandicoot games and Spyro games since the remasters came out, right?
Well, we got Crash 4, right?
Okay. All right. Sure. All right. Number 8 is 2013's Tomb Raider. So it helped reboot this franchise, which was dormant. And we got a movie in 2018, which sucked. So that's nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they got 3 video games of the 2013 reboot franchise reimagining. So, and they're all fairly successful to my knowledge. The movie I didn't. It was like an Assassin's Creed. Like the people made it didn't know what they were doing, and then just eventually started doing video game things. So.
All right, cool. How about number 7, Metroid Prime?
Yeah. Well, considering Metroid just was not, and there's nothing given to it, and then Prime comes out.
Metroid.
I think it won Game of the Year. I want to say it was huge. Like, and that game is so much fun. I'm looking forward to replaying that.
2002. And when did Fusion come out? So that's like the only other game for the Game Boy Advanced. So 2002. Fusion was also 2002. So it actually did reboot it for. All right, cool. Number 6, Resident Evil 7.
Oh yeah. Well, I think after Resident Evil 6, they kind of were like left hanging, being like, what the heck do we do after that awfulness?
Yeah, apparently people don't want to run around and just shoot a bunch of random monsters in some type of weird, like, foreign country. Oh, wait, Resident Evil 8. I don't know. About Donkey Kong Country. So there was a dead arcade franchise, which became one of the premier platform series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'd think that this franchises weren't really known for a thing, and the people at Rare just kind of had a great platformer and made it Donkey Kong. I don't know, we had like these games are still released today, so they did something right.
Nice. How about number 4, Breath of the Wild? It's just a list I copied. I don't know if Zelda was dead when Breath of the Wild came out, and I don't know if anything's come out since then, so really it hasn't done anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's Breath of the Wild 2 that's coming out, then there's the Dynasty Warriors games, but I mean, or Hyrule Warriors. I don't know. I feel weird being like, oh yeah, Zelda was a dead franchise. They're like, you mean they're like second biggest franchise that Mario or the Nintendo owns?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Number 3 was the 2018 Spider-Man, because absolutely no one in the world liked Spider-Man at that point. And then 2018 happened, and like, oh, Spider-Man, we can finally like you again.
Oh, thank goodness. He's not the most popular superhero of
and
all
like,
time.
I guess Miles Morales counts as a different game, but in my mind, it's just like DLC for this game.
Yeah, it's more of like a part 2, right?
Yeah.
Like it's...
And it like, so I don't, like, there's no games that's come out since then.
Yeah.
All right.
So
then how about 2016's Doom? I suppose, because like Doom 3 or something was kind of the previous one, and then it kind of was like dormant for a while, and now it's back, and there's been a couple other spin-offs, so maybe.
Yep. I mean, I think, and it kind of brought it back to what people wanted. Like, this was a reboot done, right? People wanted to just run around and shoot. People wanted a remake with good graphics, but and better improved controls, but similar gameplay. Who would have figured? That's all we ever want.
Literally. We don't want anything different. We don't want new things. We just want fresh coats of paint on old stuff. So, and then obviously the number 1 game that brought a dead franchise back was 2018's God of War. Considering God of War 3 kind of finished off the Kratos story and like resolved the Zeus storyline, and now it's like come back, and there's been no other games since then, I guess.
Yeah.
I think this list that I copied was dumb.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of holes in it. It's a neat like idea, but I mean, a lot of these franchises weren't dead. I mean, if you want to talk about like a dead franchise, look at Dead Space, and they're supposedly starting to remake that, but that thing was like dead and buried, and like hasn't had a game in like a decade.
Yeah.
So
all right, so my list was not super well thought out. I don't know. I just couldn't get to that je ne sais quoi, as they say, right? Like, I just couldn't figure out what exactly GoldenEye did, because it's great, and it's awesome, and I love it, but I just couldn't figure out what it was. So, GoldenEye definitely, in my mind, brought 007, because I think after we started watching this game, we, like, rented all the old movies, and we were super into it, and Mom and Dad were kind of excited about that, right? So, like, that was kind of neat, but I just couldn't put it into, like, words. So that's the best you got, so, cool.
It's all good. I mean, I think it works because
I could have done a history of the Soviet Union and the U.S.'s during the Cold War. That would have been more fun.
Oh yeah. People turn to Podtendo for our history lessons.
Yeah, that's why they turn. Cool. All right, so that wraps up first show of the year. Boom. 007 GoldenEye. Boo boo boo.
Excellent. Cool. Nailed it.
Nice. All right. Do you have to say James Bond in this episode?
No, we're all done. I've seen No Time to Die, so I'm all good.
That's exciting. And you probably at some point hopefully said James Bond.
Oh, I think I've said James Bond at least a couple times.
That's sweet. Okay,
So.
cool. So with that, I think that's it. We're done. We're back in a couple weeks with like a weird sideshow that's maybe not a sideshow, but maybe it is. We're not sure.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. We have some work to do, but hopefully this year is going to be a lot of fun, and we can kind of reflect on some things that maybe we left unfinished.
I think that's what we're doing. We're doing catch-ups. We did a really nice job 2 years ago with Final Fantasy VII. We did a great job with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask last year, right? We kind of painted those. We were going to do like a big Mega Man retrospective, but it seemed like it took a lot of time and energy. We just didn't have that. So we're just doing like random-y stuff. So this is going to be our random year. Yay.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, like we're sitting here mid-January. Still don't really have a set plan. We're just kind of winging it. We'll see what happens. I figured one of two things. So other years have been so structured that either our podcast grows, and obviously the structure was holding us back, right? And this freestyle is what brings us. Our podcast fails, which means the structure was holding us together, and us abandoning our structure actually destroyed us, or we stay exactly the same, and all the time spent worrying about stuff and structure was just wasted.
Probably a little of, well, I guess we'll see.
I'm guessing it's number 3, so...
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, right, cool. So cool. With that ends our show. Goodbye.
Take care.
That's all we got. Bye.